All right, good evening, everybody. I wanted to continue my thoughts about this Title VI redefinition of Jewish identity. It's not denying that Jewish identity is religious in nature, but it's expanding it to consider a nationality or a race in order to ostensibly protect Jews from anti-Semitism. There's been a tremendous amount of backlash about this, and I've been arguing with people on Twitter about it. I don't know why my voice is so bad right now. I'm afraid I'm coming down with something. We'll see. Anyway, the issue that a lot of people are saying is my nationality is American. And like I said in the previous video, my dad used to talk like that, especially in this day and age. And by the definitions of this day and age, nationality is American. Okay. I mean, my family's been in America for a very long time as far as the Jewish community goes. My mother's family, they go back to the 1850s. People who were born in the 1830s are buried here in America. Pennsylvania, actually, here in Pennsylvania. So, I could say already the number of generations I've been in America, certainly American, even by nationality, if you want to use that term. But citizenship and what you are right now is different than nationality, because the whole issue of nationality that we're discussing here is someone being discriminated against based on their nationality. Now, nobody in America is discriminated against based on their American nationality. I mean, do you understand the stupidity of this argument? My nationality is American. I mean, we're talking about something from 1964, when they talk about being discriminated against based on nationality. We're talking about either where you came from as an immigrant or where your parents or grandparents came from as immigrants. Meaning, in the old days, it would be signed Irish not welcome, things like that. And that's discrimination based on nationality. The same thing when the Democrats locked up Japanese Americans of Japanese ancestry. The same thing. There's discrimination based on the nationality. So this idea, my nationality is American, vis-a-vis this issue of the 1964 Civil Rights Act prohibiting discrimination based on nationality, do you realize how stupid that is? And the fact of the matter is, putting the Israel issue aside, and I don't believe that my nationality is Israeli, but there is what to say that in the way that for many Jewish Americans, putting Israel aside, if not for most Jewish Americans, Jewish is more of a nationality, quote unquote, like being an Italian American, than it is a religion. Most American Jews are not religious. And yet it's these left-wing Jews who are not religious who are so upset by this definition of Jewish as a nationality. But the truth is, Jews in Hungary and Poland have more in common culturally and so forth than Jews and non-Jews in Hungary and Jews and non-Jews in Poland. Although Jews and non-Jews in Hungary had more in common than Jews and non-Jews in Poland had. The various Jewish communities often had distinct culture that separated them from the rest of society, in the sense that it could be compared to a nationality in the way that this term was being used in the 1964 Civil Rights Act, in Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And so, and generally I'll point that out, that, I come from Hungarian Jews, which is different than coming from Hungarians. I don't come from Magyars. They spoke Magyar, but they're not Magyars. They were Jews who lived in Hungary and were welcomed by the Hungarian people and lived pretty much a lot better than Jews did in a lot of other Eastern European countries. But the same thing, I have Polish Jewish ancestry. For sure, the Polish Jews had nothing to do with the Polish non-Jews at all, culturally. They were totally separate and distinct culture, to the point where it was an issue of nationality, the issue that I have with this definition. Again, this is not Donald Trump's definition. This was already from Obama. This was already a lot of these things, is particularly this issue of conflating the modern state of Israel with Jewishness, and with saying that it's anti-Semitic to in the way that someone like Alan Dershowitz would always say. He said it's not anti-Semitic to criticize the state of Israel and the Israeli government, but it is anti-Semitic to subject the state of Israel to a different set of rules than any other country in the world, and to hold them to a different standard. Alan Dershowitz for years had said that is anti-Semitic, and I always had an answer for him, is that if that's true, then God is anti-Semitic, because if you're claiming that Israel's a Jewish state and has something to do with Jewish identity, and it's something about being Jewish, which I don't believe it does, other than occupying the Holy Land of the Jewish religion. But God in the Torah holds Jewish people to a different standard, the Israelite people, to a different standard than the other nations. And so by Alan Dershowitz's definition, God is anti-Semitic, the Torah is anti-Semitic. I mean, but the outcry that's going on about this, it's illogical, and it's just part of the Trump derangement syndrome. But there are Ehrliche people who have a sincere issue. I was talking yesterday with a very well-known speaker, speaks on the radio a lot, he writes a lot and so forth. And I was arguing with him on Twitter about this issue of excuse me, whereas he was very upset at President Trump. He basically said, the way in the Medrash, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah, they said to King Nebuchadnezzar, if you act like a king, you deserve respect as a king. But if you're going to tell us to violate the laws of the King of Kings, and you're going to make us worship idols, so then you're worse than a dog. And this particular rabbi said to me, he said, I respect the office of the president, but if he's telling me something that goes against the Torah, then I say the same thing. And I said, yeah, but you're not going to get anywhere with it. You gotta chaperein in a manner that is you know, that's proper. And you know, I told this rabbi, I said, you know, President Trump is probably going to come to be Menachem Oval in Jersey City. Maybe you should you should talk to some of the Askonim there and have someone be masber to him what your feelings are. And yes, I'm upset very much when the president says things like, when he calls Netanyahu, when he speaks to a group of Jews, he calls Netanyahu your prime minister. He's not my prime minister. But you know, he's being fed, first of all, by his Adam, who's a big Zionist. Where is he supposed to hear from? You know, is Rabbi Margaretin going to explain it to him when he goes to the White House for the Hanukkah Lecht? You know what's but you have to count for him. If you have to explain, President Trump, we love you so much. You've done so much wonderful things for America, and you freed Mr. Rabashkin. You did all these wonderful things both for America and for the Jewish community in America. But please, we are Americans. You're our president, and Netanyahu is not our prime minister. I have nothing to do with Netanyahu. All of my allegiance politically is to you, Mr. President. And I just want you to know that. You know, it's an honor that you are president. You have to talk, menschlich, and it's true. That's how I feel. And but you know, part of the thing is, you know, Retzich Azoi. You know, I'm reminded there was a book, like a secular book. I don't remember what it's called. Something like Our Crowd or something like that. A secular Jewish book I read when I was a kid, talking about what the Jewish community it's like, and you know what the Jewish culture was in America in the early 20th century. And I don't remember if it was this book or a different book. Maybe it was Chutzpah. Maybe I don't remember which. You know, Chutzpah was by Dershowitz. Doesn't matter which book it is anyway. The the point was in this story, there was a Jewish kid watching a baseball game, and Sandy Koufax was playing, and or Hank Greenberg or whoever it was, and he was playing for the opposing team, and the kid was obviously Jewish, and the Irishman was talking to him, and he said, "Oh, isn't Hank Greenberg great, or isn't Sandy Koufax great?" And the Jewish kid was, I guess he's okay. I don't know. So then the Irish kid said to him, I don't understand you Jews. For us Irish people, if there's an Irish player, even for the other team, we root for him because he's one of ours. And you're so uncomfortable about your Jewishness, but this is your player, he's your man. And the thing was, you know, they felt about Hank Greenberg and Sandy Koufax, Jews felt that way, something special. But excuse me. When we're talking about this story, So, perhaps when President Trump calls Netanyahu your prime minister, he means it in the sense like someone would call Sandy Koufax your baseball player. Maybe that's, and it's still a silly thing, it's still wrong, and he shouldn't do it. But I'm trying to wrap my head around why people are so upset about this. Especially when the secular Jews are like, oh, being Jewish is not just about religion, and then President Trump says being Jews is not just about religion. Being Jewish is not just about religion. So then they're like, oh, he's Hitler and this and that. Like, what are you talking about? And they're like, oh, it's like the Nuremberg laws saying Jews are a different nationality. Meaning Jews are a different nationality, like Jewish Americans are a different nationality, like Italian Americans are a different nationality, and Irish Americans are a different nationality. The thing is, today, you don't have people discriminating, saying, no Irish welcome, but you still have people expressing anti-Semitism, and many of them hide behind anti-Zionism. And I say this as an anti-Zionist, but I admit that there are certain people, both Jewish and non-Jewish, who have an anti-Jewish feeling, and they claim it's not anti-Semitism, it's anti-Zionism. I mean, it's the same. You have secular Israelis who they're saying, oh, I'm anti-Zionist, but then they go into Kiryas Joel and take videos and say, look how dirty and disgusting this place is. When they're specifically going like on garbage day, like, so it's whereas our frum anti-Zionism has nothing to do with their anti-Zionism. And the thing was that these left-wing quote-unquote fake, I consider them fake Muslims, Talib and Omar. I mean, if Ilhan Omar lived in a real Muslim country, she would have been executed. She's not a Muslim. She's not submitting to Allah. She's not following the Hadith and the Sunnah. She's just, using this identity to call herself a victim. And when the Neturei Karta, some of them are friends of mine, I disagree with them, but I know them. I haven't seen them in years and years, but I know these people. And they wanted to go speak to Ilhan Omar and to Rashida Tlaib, and they wouldn't speak to them. They don't want to talk to Jews. All right, they'll talk to Bernie Sanders because he's a communist like them. So, but here President Trump is pretty much saying what all the secular Jews believe, but because Donald Trump is saying it, it's the Trump derangement syndrome, So that's pretty much my 2 cents here, is that yes, maybe today in 2019 we say my nationality is American, but in 1964, which is what we're referring to here, Jewish would fit into the category, and even in 1930, before there's a state of Israel, and Jews in America would identify more as Jews on the Lower East Side, right? then they would identify as Polish or Hungarian or Russian. They might identify as Polish Jews or Hungarian Jews or Russian Jews or Lithuanian Jews. But they're identifying more as Jews and trying to fit into the American society. And it wasn't about, this aspect of what we're talking about. In the same way that you're Chinese American and the Lower East Side in Chinatown and Italian American in Little Italy, and you were a Jewish American in the Lower East Side. The Jewish Americans, didn't go from Poland, didn't try to find a Polish community to live in, and from Hungary didn't try to find a Hungarian community to live in. They tried to find a Jewish community to live in, and maybe they had their synagogues that were the Polish Shul, and the Romanische Shul, and the Ungarische Shul, the Litwische Shul, the Yekische Shul. We had the Litwische Shul and the Yekische Shul, the Russische Shul. You had such a thing. Like you have a Sephardi Shul and you have a Moroccan Shul and a Syrian Shul and the Bukharian Shul. But still, you're gonna the Syrian Jews identify as Syrian Jews and not as Syrians. Not as Syrian, and the Iranian Jews identify as Iranian Jews. Often they'll call themselves Persian because they don't want to identify with Iran. So I've even seen Iraqi Jews call themselves Babylonian Jews. Not as much as the Persian Jews do. The Syrian Jews, Bukharian Jews, but they're Jews, and it's not just their religion, but it's a particular ethnicity, to the point where it's very similar in the fashion that we talk about nationality vis-a-vis this issue of being discriminated against because of nationality. Is this now the real issue, though, that this rabbi brought up, that is a serious issue to bring up that has to be addressed, is and I think I mentioned in the previous video, is what about if this rabbi who goes and speaks in colleges and other similar rabbis, in the Neturei Karta, this one's not in the Neturei Karta, this is a Litvische rabbi, but the Neturei Karta rabbis, they're going to, and this particular Litvische rabbi is a very strong anti-Zionist. He's actually not Lithuanian, he's actually Polish, he's a nephew of Satmar Rebbetzin. He grew up in Satmar Rav's house, and this rabbi, he said, that basically, what's going to happen if he goes and speaks in the college, and the college is told, you're not going to get federal funding because you had Rabbi so-and-so speak in your college. And the thing is, the college, it's not a free speech issue, because the college is under no obligation to take the federal funding. And also the rabbi has plenty of forums, and he's all over the internet, and you want to hear what he has to say, he's there. But I think it's a sincere freedom of speech issue that even a religious Zionist should be concerned with. Just because he's getting his way doesn't mean that he should be he shouldn't be upset when other people's rights are being affected. I should have gone to the river and toilet this class. I don't think we have. When I go to the Mikvah Friday, I can do it. So, these are issues that we have to address. And it's a sincere concern, and I hope it's. I mean, I think it should be clear that, you know, a rabbi is not engaging in anti-Semitism for having a different view about Israel. And that's the problem. But to protect Jews from anti-Semitism, meaning I don't have the problem with the nationality part of it necessarily, even though I disagree with it, because it's being designed to protect Jews from anti-Semitism, because religion is not a protected class, because for a very simple reason, there are many colleges that are religious colleges and that want to that really have to discriminate to a certain extent. I mean, many of them still won't, you know. I mean, I understand, you know, Touro College, they have different branches, but if someone who's not Jewish wants to go to the Jewish branch of Touro College and learn Gemara, they're probably going to say, you know, we have other branches for you, or you can come to the secular classes, but we don't want you in the religious classes. Although I've heard stories that NYU they did accept people and try to put them specifically in the most difficult Gemara shir. Maybe the one in Yiddish. Nowadays there's no shir in Yiddish in NYU, but Rav Soloveitchik used to give a shir in Yiddish, you know, and if he's able to follow a shir in Yiddish, so then he can come to shir, you know. So if he wants to become a ger, it's a different thing, but we're not talking about this. And the same thing with other religions, you know. There's some religious schools specifically want to discriminate based on religion, but they can't discriminate based on race or ethnicity and so forth. And the same thing to discriminate based on sex. It's also not protected here because, again, you have schools for boys and schools for girls, you know. I went to Lander College for men, and they have Lander College for women, you know, Stern College for women, Yeshiva College is for men. So, but all of this has to be with the thing that most people don't realize is that most of this controversy is not based on anything Donald Trump did, but rather based on the tweet that the New York Times put out and the words that they put into Donald Trump's mouth. So, thank you for listening. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. So in the end, I'm upset about this, and I'm worried. If a rabbi wants to go and speak against Israel, against Zionism, he should not be prevented from doing so. And I think, you know, it's not really so much the issue of a speaker coming up and getting to speak. I think it's more the issue of people being harassed, people being, you know, and there being, you know, anti-Semitic graffiti and things like that. And that the federal government is going to say if a college doesn't hold back with these things, we're not going to, or the same thing. What if a Christian college said they're not going to accept a Jewish convert? It doesn't usually happen. But you know, he's totally Christian in his religion. But because of his Jewish ethnicity and ancestry, he's Meshumid, you know, this Christian college is not going to accept him. Or the Muslim college, he's a Muslim, he made a Shahada, and he makes Salat 5 times a day, and he fasts Ramadan, but he's of Jewish ancestry. No, we're not taking you Yahud. And That should be illegal, I would assume. And that's what this law is doing. If you want to take federal funding, again, there are plenty of colleges that don't take any government funding. I mentioned Hillsdale College doesn't take government funding. You could survive as a college without government funding. So, thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. And we'll see you later. Let me know what you think and hit that bell button. Please subscribe, because most of the people watching not subscribed. What does it hurt to subscribe? Alright, we'll see you later.